Hello and welcome to our webinar series for the Complete Office Companion. My name is Karen Cole with the Grandview Group, and we're excited for this webinar series. Our presenter is Marsha Owen. Marsha is the owner of the Administrative Support Services. She also has the PHR and the CAP OM certifications from IAAP. For 11 years, she has been the support personnel trainer for the Tulsa Public Schools. Currently, she is working part-time in a medical front office. She won the first ever National Classified Development Award from Learning Forward and is a presenter of audio tape breakout sessions for IAAP and Learning Forward in US and Canada. She's published in multiple professional journals. She also facilitated the CPS and CAP preparation classes for over 15 years. Marsha is a member of the Tulsa Community College Business Advisory Board and has done that for over 20 years and is a contributor to 3 chapters of the Complete Office Companion. Welcome, Marsha.
Good morning. How are you?
We're so glad that you could join us.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here. So excited today to have the opportunity to present this first of a series of webinars on the exciting, dynamic, Complete Office Companion. Today, you will hear me make references to specific questions of the Complete Office Companion as we go through our presentation today. I will be showing the slides and discussing them with you, and I will make references and hope that I can give you time to make notes of places to go back and find that particular information should you desire to view the very, very helpful videos and the tremendous amount of reference material that you will find in the Complete Office Companion. Certainly, any administrative professional understands the importance of goals. And with the numbers of mergers and changes in our national economy, it's important to always be prepared for the next step in your career. Certainly, it's not being satisfied with where we are in life or in work that motivates us. It's becoming concerned or dissatisfied with a particular situation that provides the motivation for us to make a change. And that includes anything from the challenges that I have of trying to lose weight or quit smoking, or certainly considering other employment. I truly believe that goals are growth opportunities that activate our life success. And when we're focused on a goal, we're focused on the action to achieve it. Some of our takeaways for today you will see before you. We will talk about, as addressed in Chapter 2 of the COC, things such as the application process and how much it has changed. There's so much information there on the electronic application, which most applications anymore, you will find, particularly with large corporations, that they are electronic. And we'll talk more about that and the importance of having all the information before you as you start that, because as many of us know, computers have a tendency to time out on us, and we don't want that when we're completing an electronic application. Certainly there's also hard copy applications that we'll be completing, and we'll talk again more about that. But there are not only once you complete your application, that's not the end of the game. We've got to learn to prepare our exciting, dynamic resumes and be ready for that exciting interview, which, by the way, should always be two-way. And certainly there are alternative sources of employment if we find after an interview that we need to turn down a particular position. And that is just a breakdown briefly of what we will be discussing today. Finding that dream job is not nearly as difficult as it once was, and thank goodness for social media, particularly for LinkedIn as it relates to great resources dedicated to the professional. The important thing to remember, unless your employer has said you need to look for another job, you need to look for another employment off the clock. I think that's very important because we certainly will be talking further down the line about making sure that we are productive when we are working for a particular employer. No one wants to know that we are sending a resume at 10 a.m. local time to another company in town when we are still employed. We're still indicating we're still employed there. And, you know, it kind of raises red flags for a potential employer that if they're taking time from this employer, they may take time from me to look for another job. In my past life, I've had the chance to interview many people, and they felt uncomfortable sometimes because they had been out of the workplace for a significant time period, raising their family, or they only had volunteer experiences. And so often I would tell them those volunteer experiences count. It's sometimes more difficult to work with a group of volunteers when no one has to be there than it can be when you are a paid employee. So never discount those experiences as irrelevant if you are lacking in formal work experience. Remember, volunteer work is also work. Our key takeaway number one is, again, how do we stay in the know about our particular profession? There are many professional organizations that exist for particular career paths. I personally belong to the International Association of Administrative Professionals and the Society for Human Resources Management. On a daily basis, I get information from many other organizations requesting that I join them, and I know that each of those have value. Those are dedicated to specific professions. There are also wonderful organizations such as Rotary, Kiwanis, Chambers of Commerce in various metropolitan areas that provide wonderful networking opportunities with people across various fields of work and stages and ages in their lives. Certainly with the prevalence of the Internet, many can earn a college degree without ever having to darken a classroom. And that's very exciting to people with a limited amount of time, particularly if you happen to still be employed and are upgrading your skills for another opportunity. Company events that support United Way or other initiatives are a great way to learn to work more with colleagues and to learn more about their skills and abilities to benefit the broader cause. And I think it's certainly wonderful opportunities to do that, and I certainly encourage you to take advantage of that if you have the opportunity to do so. If we decide we're going to make a job change, there are certain steps that we're going to need to take. Certainly we talked about the electronic application and the hard copy application as well. Preparing that dynamic resume, it needs to be specific for the job that you are seeking, and we're going to talk more about that. Write an error-free cover letter, and when I say error-free, that means punctuation, spelling, grammar, sentence structure. All of those things are very important, and they show a tremendous amount of attention to detail. We will talk also about researching the particular business to which you are applying and learning to sell a reader on the reason to interview you. In completing the application, always make sure that you are fully honest. There is a high percentage of people who twist the truth or are experts at spin. Some just flat out do not tell the total story, and it's found out later. And at that point in time, it certainly can be cause for termination, or they overstate their abilities and skills and find out that they're in over their head and then find themselves unemployed. And none of us want to be in that situation. So when we're totally honest up front and we're screening well companies that we might want to apply to, then we are not going to apply to a company that would not be suitable for our particular skills. Electronic resumes have great advantages for companies. They enable them to easily collect, screen, and file resumes. And as they screen resumes, they are looking for certain key words that might appear in your resume. And you can read more about the screening and collecting and the benefits for companies in using electronic methods of receiving resumes in Section 2.12 of the Complete Office Companion. Our key takeaway number 2 for today is learning to market or brand ourselves effectively. A resume should never exceed 2 pages. It should provide all the information that you need to be marketing yourself, to be contacted easily, where your skills are documented specifically. And with many of us changing jobs, according to the Future Workplace, Multiple Generations at Work, 91% of those born between 1977 and 1997 will stay in a job less than 3 years. For those of us born prior to that date, the average is only 4.4 years. That would mean that we would have approximately 15 to 20 jobs in our working career. Wow, we always must be prepared. And it gets back to the old Girl Scout and Boy Scout motto of be prepared and keep that resume updated and do it well. An account temps survey recently indicated that 76% of executives interviewed said that just 1 or 2 typing errors in a resume or a cover letter would remove applicants from consideration for a job. 40% says you even should be more careful and that 1 typing error may rule you out for further consideration. So certainly accuracy and attention to detail is critical from the very beginning. And your impression, the impression that employers will have of you and coworkers will have of you starts immediately when you submit that application and you submit that cover letter and resume. Again, you are branding and marketing yourself at that point in time. In completing an application, we should be, or a resume, completing our resume, we should be very careful about some of the things that we list. Some of us get so excited, maybe we have great references and we want to show that we've got those references right away. We need to be able to sell ourselves appropriately, and when someone asks for those references, we can at that point provide those references. Certainly it's important to keep a portfolio of your accomplishments. It certainly makes preparing your resume easier, and you might want to have that in the trunk of your car or with you and available should that potential employer ask to see it. Have that documentation available, but don't come in with binders full of information and overwhelm that interviewer in their limited amount of time that they have to visit with you. They want to find out about you and how you present and how you will fit with a particular company before they ask for that information typically. I personally don't have a 4-year college degree. I think I have been reasonably successful in my career in that I have worked for upper-level management as an administrative professional, an executive assistant, and I have also had the opportunity to supervise during my career a number of clerical staff and administrative professionals. So it's been an exciting opportunity. I'm not excited about the fact that I got my MRS and my MOM degree, and unfortunately did not. That was not an exciting part. It was exciting to get that, but it would also have been nice to get that BS or BA degree as well. So certainly, if you are a student, I encourage you to stay with it. But if you're not, it is important to remember that your experience counts. on a daily basis when you are applying, just as we talked about your volunteer work. It used to be that resumes required an objective. It is no longer a requirement, and if you do decide to use an objective, make sure that you don't say, I want to be the chief operating officer in 6 months. While that may be your desire, it certainly is not prudent to say that when you are applying for a job with the chief operating officer. Remember that you are applying for a position that may ultimately lead you to that position, but that you have the skills, knowledge, and ability and the open mind to learn what it will take to get to that corner office as the COO. No chief operating officer or employer wants to hire an employee that wants to start with their job at the very top and do not indicate their desire to learn. And again, it's important to have those goals. We talked about goals. It's very important to have those goals, but let's be realistic in our desires, and certainly if we're going to submit an objective, let's be realistic with that and saying something to the effect of, I would like a position in the legal business, for example. I'd like to obtain a position in the legal business rather than I would like to be a partner in this firm. Okay. If you have a great deal of work experience, use an accomplishment-based resume. And in using an accomplishment-based resume, we're going to talk about how to develop an accomplishment-based resume, but if you're going to use an accomplishment-based, make sure that you are fully available to support what you say that you can do, either by certificates or by letters of commendation or in some other way that you have written documentation or someone that can absolutely confirm that you have accomplished the things that you say that you can do. If you have a limited amount of experience, or you're in school, or you are just beginning your career, focus on that education that you're getting. Make that the early part of your resume. If you don't use an objective, make that the very first item on your resume just after all your contact information. And so certainly there's advantages both ways for those that have the formal education and have a limited amount of experience, or those who are seasoned professionals who find themselves having to change employment due to circumstances beyond their control, or a desire to pay for college for their students in their homes, for example. In writing an accomplishment-based resume, be sure that you use action words to describe your accomplishments. Here are some examples that you see before you. I particularly like the word coordinate, because coordinate to me means that I am willing to work with other people. I have the ability to have my own ideas, and we always need to remember that 1 + 1 = 3, and by working together, we certainly can accomplish a great deal more than any of us could together. But I think it's very important that we do coordinate with others and recognize the value that they have. And if we have done that successfully, certainly use that as one of your words in your action-based or your accomplishment-based resume. I'm going to give you an example, a couple of examples now, of using those accomplishment-based terms. Instead of saying, I purchased office supplies, which is true, you might consider saying, I instituted an office supply purchasing program that saved the company $135,000 a year. But if you're going to say that, make sure that you can document that you fully saved that $135,000 a year. Instead of just saying, I supervised 5 staff, and many of us that have had the opportunity to directly manage staff know that there's much more involved in just saying, I supervised 5 staff. There's the hiring, the coaching, the disciplinary actions, the evaluations, the daily grind of working with those employees, of mentoring and of training those employees. That seems to me to be more action-oriented, and we're saying I'm excited about active participation in your company. I think it's important that everyone realize that there are those mundane tasks, such as filing. Instead of saying that I did all the filing, obviously you've developed some kind of an efficient, well-managed system. Be sure that you let them know that, and that people have been able to find things very easily due to your well-documented system. Again, there is nothing at all dishonest about what you're saying. It's just a little bit more action-oriented. And I know when I was interviewing, I was certainly looking for those action-oriented folks. And moving on, our key takeaway number 3 is the actual interview. If you've written an effective resume and you've gotten that call to come in for that interview, what an exciting time for you. There are a great number of hints in Section 2.2.4 of the Complete Office Companion called Researching the Company, and that is a very important thing to do, and I certainly would call your attention to that section of the Complete Office Companion. A few things that they mentioned there are being aware of who the company's competition are and their initiatives that they have going on. Before the interview, you are certainly going to arrive early and wait patiently. And I think the key there is patiently, because most of us know that have worked for a while, if you have to wait on an interviewer and you are waiting impatiently, that's going to be evident to the receptionist and to others who may cross your path, who may become your coworkers and your colleagues down the line. And if they see that you are agitated or uncomfortable with having to wait maybe 5 extra minutes, that's going to be apparent to them, and they're going to possibly be thinking in their mind, that's somebody I'm not sure I want to work with. Understand the job role that you are applying for. If there is no job description, ask for that when you go in for your interview so you can take a look and be certain how your skills, knowledge, and abilities align with the position for which you are applying. Ways to impress the employer. We talked about being on time, very, very critically important. You do not need to be the prettiest or the most handsome or even the most brilliant, for sure. However, it is important to be the best you can be at whatever position that you seek. And remember that the interviewer has about 5 seconds to make an initial impression. And that's before maybe you've ever done anything but shake hands. They have formed an impression in their mind of whether or not they may want to consider you based on your appearance, your attitude, those things that are apparent to them as a seasoned interviewer. If you are in an intern position or a clerk in the mailroom or an executive assistant, as W.M. Thackeray said 2.5 centuries ago, and that's back in the 1800s, by the way, whatever you are, be a good one. I think that's important for all of us to remember. Whatever role we're in, whatever we are, be a good one. Here's a few more tips that you will find in Section 2.3.1 is helpful. It talks about acting as naturally as we can. Remember, not only are you as the interviewee nervous, as people have progressed in their career, it may be the first time your interviewer has ever interviewed anyone. And so it's important for you to recognize they may be a bit nervous as well. So, respect that and understand that and know that, it's not the end of the world if you don't get the job, but certainly go in well prepared. Section 2.3.3 indicates a number of interview questions I think that are very important for you to consider. And do remember this. In an interview, questions are open-ended typically, such as, tell me about yourself. What are your major strengths and weaknesses? And what areas do you think you need to improve? So you need to practice with a friend or a family member before you go into that interview. And again, I certainly call your attention to Section 2.3.3 in the Complete Office Companion, where you will see a great deal of very helpful information in the interview process. Now that you've survived the interview, sincerely shake hands and thank each member of the interview team. More and more companies are using panel interviews, and that can be quite the challenge because typically those people involved in panel interview have a particular area of concern, and they want to make sure that anyone that comes on their team can help them address their specific issue or concern that will benefit the entire team, and they want to make sure you're a good fit. So more and more companies are using panel interviews. And while it can be challenging, it certainly is possible. One of the ways that you can gather information is if you have the chance to get a business card from each and every person on that panel, be sure you do that because you're going to be writing a follow-up thank you, be it an email or preferably a written card thanking them for their time and indicating your interest if you are still interested in that job. If you're not, let them know so they can move on to the next person and they will not pursue you as an interviewee. Certainly important for them in the limited amount of time that they have as well, and not to tie up your time and them calling you and saying, I had this offer for you, and then you have to tell them, again, I'm sorry, I'm declining a position. And speaking of declining a particular position, there are other things that you can do certainly for gainful employment, and certainly there's the opportunity to work through a temporary agency. There are employment agencies out there that contract with employers for assistance, and you can certainly go out and do that, but when you do that, be very careful that you are not getting into a situation where you will have to pay a fee. If you are willing to do that, make sure that you understand what that fee is going to be. Many times the companies will pay a fee, but I think it's become more the preference now to work through a temporary agency, and you both have the opportunity to check out what works best for you and for them as well at the same time. Some important points to remember. It is no longer your mom or dad's workplace where they stayed for 20, 30, or even 40 years. My own father worked his entire 46-year career at the same company with the exception of his military service. Always be prepared. Since, again, you may have 15 to 20 jobs in your work history by the time you reach retirement age, and then find yourself searching for a part-time job after that, you need to always be prepared to keep that resume up to date, to keep those accomplishments documented. You never know when that next great opportunity may come your way. Certainly find a position that motivates you to want to go to work every day. Work can be a drudgery or it can be a pleasure. Certainly we want it to be as pleasurable for ourselves and for our employees and coworkers as we can. So find something, again, that motivates you to take action to want to get out of bed and go to work. I want to thank everyone who took time from their busy schedule to join us today. I know that people are busy out there, and you may be at work, and my goal for you today is to be able to have provided something that you can take directly to the bank this afternoon, and before today is over, that you can implement that in your workplace. We will be doing on October 8th, we will be doing an additional webinar called If You Don't Know Where You're Going, How Will You Know When You Get There? And we've talked today about goal setting and very little, but we will be discussing more and more about goal setting and career advancement in our next webinar next week. This concludes my presentation for the day, and I hope that there has been something, at least one thing, that you will find that will be helpful to you in advancing your career and as an administrative professional. There's millions of us, and certainly as some of us have decided to retire from full-time work, we need you students out there to become interested and excited about our profession and to recognize there's opportunities for success and achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marsha. That was wonderful. I also want to reiterate that the Complete Office Companion is live and ready for purchase. You can click on this screen to purchase it. We encourage you to sign up for more of our webinars. We're presenting 7 more webinars through the end of the year, and you can reach those at in the same place in the training center where you signed up for this webinar. And we invite you to have a great day.